And that is another thing I've realized with high performers. Like nothing ruins their day. They decide what ruins their day, or they decide, okay, this is not going to cheese me off, or maybe a little bit of traffic, or a little bit of heat, or maybe something went wrong at work, or like I'm not going to let that ruin my day because I call the day.
Hey everybody, what's good? Welcome back to the Next Move podcast. And if this is your first time on the show, we're a podcast that shares the strategies, stories, and tools behind people who are making an impact in their field. And today I have Feroza Engineer with me, who is a performance coach to some of the top executives at different organizations around the world. And we're going to be deconstructing a few things. We're going to be talking about the power of being yourself and embracing the uniqueness of yourself, and how do you do that? We're going to be talking about building confidence. Is it something you can do? You know, at different companies, there's a lot of executives who, and if you're wondering why I'm laughing, Feroza is making weird faces to me while I'm doing this. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about how do you build confidence, and we're going to be talking about exact strategies that you can use. And the last thing is we're going to be seeing, are there any trends and routines of high performers in different organizations that we can just copy and paste into our own lives? But without further ado, I'd love to bring you in, Feroza. How are you?
Hi, Arman. Hello, everyone joining in. I'm good. I'm doing good.
You made doing that introduction the hardest that has ever been. Unfortunately, everybody couldn't see, but she was making very funny faces to me throughout. And that's her. And I think that's a great place to get into it, because Feroza, I've had a few communications with her, but from what I've seen on LinkedIn and research, she is like the person that embraces her own self and her own uniqueness and her own weirdness the most out of everybody. So I just want to start there. Have you always been like this, or is it something that you transition to later?
I don't think my parents would agree to that. I haven't been like this my entire life. Maybe in childhood there were a few experiences that needed courage, or that made me demonstrate courage, whether it is being in being okay with who I am in terms of my sexuality, or maybe trying to even understand that, or maybe trying to understand religion over a way of life, or like the kind of questions that you ask yourself. But I've come across a few people who really follow through and do that diligently. So somewhere my honest submission would be that I wish I had done it sooner, but I'm glad I've usually kind of, literally tried to keep courage by my side, and follow through with that, because I do remember being extremely shy. I do remember my mom still tells me about not wanting to do public speaking, getting extremely shy in front of an audience. Or I even have photographs that are up on my refrigerator where my partner harasses me with those photographs, where I'm hiding behind my mother's legs, or I'm literally like. So from there to that, I just tell people that, hey man, this is learned. Anything can be learned, like so. Yeah, that's
So
me.
did you like, when you were a kid and you were shy, did you feel like it was inside of you, but there was something like blocking you from doing that? Or is it a personality like this eccentric, you're loud, you're very expressive? Is it something that, because that's kind of the opposite of being shy, right? Is it something that you cultivated, or it was always inside and you wanted to get it out?
I guess the latter. I think maybe this was always inside. It also depends in childhood. Who are you around? Who are you spending a lot of your time with? Who are your friends, or your friend circle, or how do you feel around them? That's a huge part of you even deciding in childhood whether you wanna, get that haircut, or get that color, or be comfortable getting that kind of shave that you want, that design, or that punk look. These are the smaller influences, I feel. So I think bit of both. I had peer pressure, and I had the opportunity of even support with my friends who were like me, and who kind of didn't bother about hearsay or what's the most popular thing. Like, we would just, just a few of us would just be doing our own thing.
Was there a moment in your life, because you said you haven't been all like this, was there a moment that you were like, I have to be, myself, I have to be who I want to be, or it just kind of slowly transitioned?
Think it slowly transitioned because I feel courage comes in nuggets. It never
Okay.
comes with an invitation, or it never comes with like a letter. Hey, I'm coming, 27 January 1992. I'm coming. That never happens. And that's why even as a performance coach, I'm like, I'm not preparing you for that surreal moment. Or, we're not preparing ourselves, or we're not changing our habits, or maybe just revisiting some of our mindsets, not for some milestone or some moment, which is why I feel that soft skills are not soft, Arman. Like, they are hard. I don't know why they are called soft. Like, I have this mission to tell people, like, please stop calling them soft skills. There's nothing soft about these. So I would say there would be a moment where I would be like, okay, maybe if I'm taking part in a play, as kids, you want to take part in some play, something, if you have that interest. I would ask myself, okay, what role do you think I could play best? I'm like, no, I could play Romeo. Why not? Let me audition for Romeo. So, to your question, it was never a planned event, but it would be in the moment I would ask myself that choice. What should I go for? And I'd be like, I want to go for this one. I don't care. Let me see what will happen. So I've always had that thing of, let's do it. And I think maybe later in life, you hear these heavy words called bias for action, action oriented, drive for results. I'm like, no, man, like, you just do it and then just figure it out on the way. Like, what are we overthinking stuff here?
And I want to ask you, I want to kind of go back into the uniqueness bit. If
Hmm.
you have someone, like if you were coaching someone, let's say an executive or just a friend
Hmm.
who, one on one, they're really like interesting, different, expressive, whatever it is. But when it comes to different situations, they kind of freeze up, right? And they're not able to fully be themselves. What are some kind of things that you would tell them, and kind of activities or routines that they should start doing to open up a little bit more?
To answer that, Arman, like, I'm just gonna take a little step back, right? Uh, I've grown up with a lot of learning disabilities. In the sense, nothing major, but from a perspective of, it took me time to realize certain things, why they existed the way they existed. Even my graduate exams were not written by me, they were written by a writer. I had something called focal dystonia. And let's just say, like, the shiz is hitting the ceiling, and I'm like, just kind of doubting everything, questioning everything. I really one day just got up and made a choice that I really, can't be good at everything. But I'm going to be bloody so good at one or two things. I'm going to annoy the daylights out of you being just exceptionally good at those two things. So the moment I figured out that, oh my God, how am I going to write these exams? Like, here's the writer writing, and it's so difficult. I cannot tell you how difficult it is to study for someone else to write your exams. So I told myself, fine, if I can't write, I will master memory and audio, and I will make audio notes. And till date, I make audio notes. I never have notes. I never have like anybody who's attended my workshops or my speeches or the events that have come here. I never have anything in my hand. Like, I'm always like, I don't know why people need this. What is going on? So I think very soon I became a little stubborn, which wasn't every time appreciated growing up as a girl, as a woman. You need to do what you're told to do, like by society. But as a family, like, I come from a very liberal, progressive Parsi household where there is like, like, when I would hear my friends talk about, like, women are not getting an equal chance, or my mother and me eat last, and we eat in the plate in what my father and my brother eat. I'm like, how unhygienic to begin with. That's what my grandmother would bring the whip down. So I'm not saying like, so I did have that supportive environment to a large extent. But after a point, this is what I've realized, even with high performers, they are not good at every single thing, but they are so exceptionally good at a few things. Like that's why these days when I see this entire Olympics of masterclass after masterclass webinar, everyone's doing a masterclass. I can't connect to that, or I can't. That's why I'm sorry. I'm laughing because I think that's again foundational, again fundamental. Again, that will give you less anxiety, less worry. That you don't have to be good at everything. You kind of be good at a few things, and then in every situation, let that just be your true north. Everything else is fine. So in every situation, if people can just see me the way I am, it is less headache for me. Sometimes I feel don't people kind of see that if you don't have to think, if you don't have to plan, if you don't have to measure your words, your sentences, your body language, if you don't have to, like, I know there are several unfortunate sections of our society and the larger society at large that cannot enjoy the privileges as a woman that I enjoy in my country. I'm very aware and respectful of that because not a lot of women even have that. So I feel that's why I owe it to not just me, but a lot of people out there who are struggling with this entire authenticity thing because I'm like, hey, we all are a work in progress, man.
Kind of the one of the major things I took away from what you just said is it's you've defined who you are. So no matter what the situation is, you don't have to put on some script or some act that you're going to be different. Because, for example, sometimes when I'm doing this podcast, I think like, oh, it's supposed to be professional, so maybe I won't put in a few jokes that I'd love to put in, but maybe this type of audience wouldn't like it. So there's where like a scripted kind of tone comes in, and I think like if I want to swear a little bit here and there, that's fine because that's who I am. If I want to make a joke, that's kind of who I am. So I really like that point. And you talked about these techniques. I'm very interested, without giving too much of your secret sauce away. Can you talk about some of these techniques that you use with some of these top performers?
Yes. Again, but I'm so glad that you got that vibe, or I'm so glad that you connected with the literally the latent need for us to be authentic. I don't think it's a requirement, or I also want people to pause there and go like, no one's asking this of you, but like imagine if you were, how would that feel like just for you? For a moment, just focus on yourself. And then, we'll create like this entire map around the individual to understand the individual's worldview. Because I feel that's where I feel a lot of good life coaches, executive coaches, coaches in general, even therapists. I think somewhere it's important you enter the coachee's worldview and help them there first, then move them out into discomfort versus shock and awe, or versus trying techniques completely. This is not going to work because you are just expecting them after one session or two sessions just completely get out of their worldview and try what you are saying, some bhajan kirtan or some madness or some mumbo jumbo. So something generic and something that I have shared on LinkedIn is, whether you are a first time leader or you're a first time manager, or even if you're a seasoned leader as well, before you attack your to-do list in the morning, we have this nonsensical notion that we have to either create a to-do list first thing in the morning or the night before, or before we get into our hectic day, right? We have that. So before you create your to-do list, I coach individuals, and we like together do it in one session, and then it's like homework for every day that needs to be recorded. Is something called a to-be list. So you get up, you know the kind of day you're going to have. You know you have 6 meetings coming up, or you know you have back-to-back 2 workshops, or you know that you have such a chill, lazy day. You have just 1 meeting in the middle, and you have desk time, which would mean like 5,000 emails and reports and review. I mean, you know your day. Or let's say you don't know your day. You're in that mood of, ooh, surprise me, it's my day off. Whatever it is, man, whatever it is. When you get up in the morning, before you attack that to-do list, just ask yourself, okay, for the day that's set out for me, like, who do I want to be today? So who do I want to be? Do I want to be somebody who's patient? Is patience important for me today? Hell yeah, it is. Okay, I want to be patient. Let me just write up. Who else do I want to be today? Like, I want to be this cool cucumber today. Like, I just really need to be a cool cat. I cannot afford to lose my cool because I have that quarterly meeting and I know what happens to me in that quarterly meeting. Okay, just write it down. Cool as cucumber. So like that, just spend some time, just talk to yourself, because I don't get it. Like, if you were gonna go through self-development, you first need to, understand yourself, or you first need to play with yourself. When you date someone, you get to spend some time with them. No, that is dating, right? So this is like, how are you doing this before just drowning yourself in your to-do list? And I'm telling you, I'll have the first week people go like, the silly activity. Then suddenly I'll hear these transformations. Oh my God, I was able to just look at my to-be list right here, or Feroza now. So sometimes it's just these small, but it can, I mean, you tell me, Aman, like, what is sitting with you hearing the to-be list?
No, my first. I'll tell you what my to be list is. But I was just thinking, what's on yours today?
1 second. I do it on post-its.
Okay.
So one is,
Create focus. Quality, quality, quality. So how come? Why did you choose those?
because the kind of day that I have, or the kind of things that I need to look at, or have a conversation with you on, or things that I need to ship out, they require these 2 elements, and I know that I can get distracted. So I'm being honest about that, because I just don't, I feel we just fight against our coping mechanisms. We just don't find a healthy way around it, or just like maybe a different way of looking at it.
Wow. So let me grab mine because I actually do something very similar each day. And so, I mean, my handwriting is shit, so you may not be able to see it. But see at the top, I write antelopes. And the reason I write that is because there's this story of when a lion or a tiger, I forgot what it was, but when they hunt for food, right? You can either hunt for mice, where it's a quick and easy win, and you feel satisfied very quickly, but it expends more calories to catch the mice than it does to eat it. So you're slowly dying. But with a lion who's chasing an antelope, if they catch that antelope, it takes more calories, it takes more energy and effort. But if you catch it, it will feed you for a longer period of time, and it's a calorie surplus. So that's the kind of thing that I think of with my to-do list. It's like I have so many things, and there's so many things that you want to do, but only focus on the big one, because these little things are just stroking your ego, right? So that's kind of I really like that exercise because that's what I do.
Yeah. And before just jumping into like this whole, solving for it, or fixing for it, or taking charge of it, or attacking it, please know I'm all about that. Like you heard, I'm all about, yeah, let's do it, we'll figure it out. But I'm also about, just really like, imagine for you to even write down antelope. Like, you're thinking in that direction. You have allowed your brain to think in that direction. You have paused in the moment and gone like, all right, no, I cannot be wasting my time on this. But it takes people such a long time, Arman, just to get there. Have you come across that, like, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so for me it's very similar. Like if I'm in the middle of something and I'm just like feeling overwhelmed or stressed and I just see that there's a lot to do, I'll take a look because the notebook is always by me and I'll just take a look and I'll see, okay, antelopes. So I'm not going to take that meeting, right? It's a waste of my time. And that kind of just refocuses you and just kind of takes away stress because you know if I achieve like one thing today, that's fine because it's
That's
that
fine.
number one thing, right? So I think about it like that. And I also heard about, there's, Hugh Jackman, right? Right. He does this thing where
Hmm.
at the start of the day, he writes out
Hmm.
exactly how the day went, right? As if he was reflecting at the end of the day. And then
Hmm.
at the end of each night, he kind of compares it. So did it actually go the way it went? And it usually does. So yeah. So maybe that's something you could use too.
Yeah, but see, that's what I mean. I'll tell you. Sadly, there are very few people I meet, Arman, like who really want to put in that effort, because we've literally become like handpicked. Sorry, we've literally become like, handicapped with our own, gratification list. It's endless, like nothing amuses us. Which is, we've forgotten to kind of really enjoy the small things or the simple things, or like how boring, like everything is, like boredom has become like a national sport, like outrage. They are kind of like, you're either bored or you're outraging on social media. Like really, like that's the population I'm looking at. Like you will really have to take a call around your own self-development and how you feel about it. But even for you to do that, the starting point is really recognizing that currently this is important for me. Maybe this isn't. I will maybe look at this later, because I also come across, and tell me if you've come across people like this. I've also come across people that even when they decide that that's it, I'm going to change, or I'm going to improve, or I'm going to do something different, they want to attack everything together. Like they want to go after making change around.
I do
Have
that.
you?
That's completely me. That's the definition
Okay.
of what I
So,
do.
so tell me, Arman, like why does that happen?
It's very clear. It's a need for wanting to be recognized, right? Like
Hmm.
you want to achieve so much and you always feel like, oh, I'm this age and I got to do this by that age. And it's kind of reinforced with everybody I talk to because everybody I talk to is a high performer in some way. It's like, yeah, I did this by 22, I did this by 24, did this by 30. And it's like, shit, I haven't done anything and I need to cram it all into one day. And then I realized like, nothing gets done properly, right? So that's been my big challenge.
You spoke about, you asked me earlier another thing about bringing authenticity to the table, and how, again, this is something I've realized, very true to when I had that realization around that I can't be good at everything. And maybe if I decide to, let's say, be good at these two things, I want to feel secure in these two things. If that means in a group of, in a group of 15, or in any group conversation, or uh, if those are the only two things I bring to the table, that's fine. I don't need to bring everything to the table to feel included. So that's where, even when I speak to members of the community, or in general any kind of minority or any kind of group that is feeling marginalized, or that's feeling like a minority, I always tell people that, it is high time we understand how to seek inclusivity, or how to seek permission to be included. And that's where this entire place of, uh, it's not about I want to be included, but hey, I can give you two reasons why you should be including me. Or what do you think about these two reasons? Like, seek for inclusion as well. Don't just expect that it is going to be handed down to you on a platter, because whatever, right? Those whatever reasons.
It's really important for me that what you just said because it kind of puts the focus into get good at a few things and prioritize, and then you will feel good when you're doing those things because you're actually better than other people who aren't focused. And here's what I want to get into. It's kind of both confidence and prioritization. How do you pick what to put in that list of what you want to get really good at?
This is a tool that's out there that I think a lot of, maybe I don't know how many coaches refer to that. It's the Hedgehog Concept, or it's also called the 3 circles of success, where you spend some time and figure out what you're passionate about, what you're passionate about, right? What you think like you're passionate. Number 2, what do you think you can be the best at in the world? And what is kind of serving your economic engine is the third thing. Spend some time in these 3 areas, like don't forcibly get them into a Venn diagram initially to begin with, but just spend time there, just figure those things out. Because if people really know these 3 things that I just said, like they know. So it's not a, if you really know, like you will know, oh yeah, I know this. Some people kind of confuse these two things that they are good at versus things that they really like, or things that spark joy. You might be good at something maybe because you've done it 500 times. So sometimes that is good, that itself is a, that yeah, I don't want to do this accounting BS. Like I know I'm good at this, but I just can't do this just because I've been doing, but look at my sketches. Also helping people kind of detach and see what others see their strengths as. So what are the things that they feel they can be best at in the world? Can't be 500 things. So you did a little narrow down them a little. What, so when people ask me, no, but I like all these 10 things, Feroza, and in all these 10 things I have got good feedback. I'm like, great, great. But if I wake you up at 3 a.m. in the morning and tell you to do from these 10 things, which things will you be very, very excited to do even at 3 a.m.? So let's zone in. So again, I think I wish somebody would have helped me do that, zoning in or just narrowing down, because that would answer the first question that you had, that how do you help maybe people look at priorities? Because that is tough to do. You have to sit with your stuff, with your thoughts, with your stubbornness, and you have to be okay deprioritizing. How can you prioritize if you can't deprioritize? So first, let's start there. So there only first guard is dropped. No, Feroza, I can't deprioritize this. This is very important. This, I'm like, Arey, if we can't deprioritize, then how will
By deprioritize, do you mean like there's this urgent thing on your list, but you're saying I'm not going to do that in favor of what?
yeah? What's the main thing? Like what's your antelope?
Mm.
That's why I said that even earlier. That itself is so tough to do by people, and especially people who have been in environments where failure is not appreciated. Especially people who have been in social settings, in home settings, where psychological safety hasn't been, a requisite or a need or an environment. Because I'm all the time then as this person, I'm all the time thinking of always wanting to make the right decision and the perfect decision versus, as Mr. Ratan Tata says that, life is about not making the right or wrong decisions. It's about making a decision and then making it right on the way. Like if something happens and I'm like, yeah, man, that's exactly what I believe in, even with behavior change. So one day you were in a bad mood, you accept that you were in a bad mood so that you don't repeat that nonsense the next day. So maybe on that bad mood day, you were a bad listener. Chill. You recognized it at least. Now, if your mood is going to continue, then oh my God, that's a choice. That's not like it's my mood. You can't be in a mood for 6 weeks. That's a temperament. temperament stays for another 6 weeks, 3 weeks, then it is turning into behavior. And then your behavior is your personality. So people get up one fine day going like, oh, how did I become so critical? I wasn't never like that. It just took you 2 years of doing exactly this, or 3 years of doing just this. So I said, we can change it also now. If you want to, if you have come like this, you can reverse and go back also.
Something you said reminded me of this quote I heard a while back. It was, if somebody is an asshole to you, they're an asshole, leave it, right? But if everybody's an asshole, then you're the asshole. Like, I honestly, that when you were saying that, I was like, that makes so much sense. That makes that quote even more powerful. And I want to ask you, because you talk a lot about self-awareness and all this stuff. Is there an amount of time that you spend or you dedicate on your calendar to just thinking, like not doing anything and just, being in your own head?
Yes, and it gets intensified as well. It's one of those weird things I have. So there was even a time when I was at home, when I was staying with my folks, and just if it's a casual conversation, or just my mom would go like, "Where is Feroza? See now, okay, where is she?" So my father's like, she's sitting and doing that thinking thing. That's something she does now. That something with her thoughts she wants to. She's doing that. So this is how far back it goes, where, like, because we are a family of extroverts, this whole concept of privacy exists, but sometimes doesn't exist, even with separate rooms. So I've had to go and announce things that, okay, like, please don't disturb me for the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Like, I just want to be with my thoughts. So literally, I would say that is a non-negotiable routine, Arman, or that's like a non-negotiable. I think it's a ritual rather than a routine.
It's actually really funny that you talk about this ritual when you're a kid, because, my parents say the same thing about me, because I used to have this thing called alone time. And
Mm.
I know, a fancier, I didn't call it, they called it that. And it was basically where I'd go into my room as a kid, and because
Um,
I'd always be outside, so I'd want to go and be by myself, and I just daydream about being a football player, and I'd shoot, and I'd pretend like I was scoring. And that's kind of been there from the start, and now I realize that's why, since I was a kid, I needed that time, and I still need that time. When I'm with people all day, even though I love being with people, I have a huge sense of just like, whew, like, I'm done. I need that time. So I really love that you said that. I think, a lot of people that I've had on the show has said the same thing. Like, they need 2 hours in the morning or 2 hours in the evening. So I
yeah.
kind of want to ask, when do you structure it? Is there any particular time, or it's whenever?
I think you need to reach a point in your life where um, you should be in a place where you could definitely discipline a day, but ease out the next day as well. Or I and that is another thing I've realized with high performers. Like, nothing ruins their day. They decide what ruins their day, or they decide, okay, this is not going to cheese me off, or maybe a little bit of traffic, or a little bit of heat, or maybe something went wrong at work, or like, I'm not going to let that ruin my day because I call the day.
I think that's a great transition into a few quick fire questions. And one of them off the top is, are there any kind of trends other than the one you just mentioned that you've seen from these high performers? They could be, routines, strategies, anything else that you've seen that's pretty common.
Yep. In fact, couple of things. I think, and I don't know why they are called high performers. But I feel wholehearted people. There is this commonality that I have always seen when it comes to just seeking a little more purpose over perfection, over production, over progress, but just a little more. And when I say purpose, please, sorry, I do not mean what is your purpose of life and no. The human brain was not wired for purpose. We are wired for survival, for progeny, for saving our species. We are not wired for happiness, inspiration. No, that's why all these things are external. They need to. So I really feel for people who perform consistently, maybe over a period of time, high performance becomes, something that they do. Uh, but I've always seen that they are very clear with why they are doing this. Whether it is entrepreneurs I have coached, or at the end of the day, they are able to see the glimpse of, doesn't matter if today was bad day, I've decided it's not going to ruin my goal or my purpose or my why. Uh, and this clearly, I've seen in the last 6 to 8 months, that kind of differentiates people who have bounced back from their resilience, people who have lost their jobs, have started overnight businesses, and now are doing well, have stabilized. But they've never been businessmen before. But they've had that learning mindset, or that, right, that purpose over progress. That doesn't matter, because I'm very clear why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for this. So that deep down why is something I see prominent in a lot of people who have been able to be successful at what they wanted to do, or career transitions, or with a lot of change in their life.
I want to ask you another question. This is something that I've been very interested for a while because it's something I'm wrestling with. It's how much time do you take off per week?
This has been an area of struggle. This has been an area where I've had to remind myself, not from a perspective of I need to do this, but challenge myself that, hey, Feroza, you're all about identifying patterns, figuring out certain things that work, keeping those things that don't work, throwing like. So why don't you figure this out for yourself also? So that's where I had to kind of challenge myself and go like, can you think of a week where Sunday is your starting day? Can you even think of that? And that would mean no late night on Saturday. That would mean coaching call starting at 8:45 in the morning, going up till whatever, like, all those, oh my God. So I experiment. So the quick answer to your question is yes, I do these things, but I first experiment. So first I said, okay, maybe I'll take the weekend off. I realized that did not work for my business. A lot of coaching conversations are on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm like, okay. So then I was like, okay, I'll start taking a Wednesday off in the middle. Somehow over the last few months, figured out my sweet spot that Saturday, no matter what, is complete cut off from work, like no matter what. And it's over communicated. It's reached a point where that now I have found that space. So I don't know, would it be fair for me to tell you 24 hours in a week I take off? Or maybe I would be realistic and practically tell you that, yeah, 20, the one day I take definitely day off. But in the evenings, like post 7:30 is literally like shut down, switch off, like device, everything to get into, because I like to sleep early, get up early. So
That is amazing. I think that's really cool because people struggle to, even take 24 hours off. And I think it's super important to, revitalize yourself and feel energetic. And the last thing I want to ask you, it kind of caps off this whole interview, is what's the weirdest and most unique thing about yourself?
I told my partner this morning that, listen, one of the questions is this: what should I say? And she's like stop. And I'm like, I'm just going to tell Arman that actually there isn't like one or two things, but I'm really fond of my idiosyncrasies. So the things that I feel give me peace. So whether that is a non-negotiable for me in the day is, in the morning, really lighting incense in every room and clearing the air. Like that is, some people laugh at it, find it fun, because I take my incense with me. So I don't know whether that is weird, that is funny, but hey man, I always tell people that just pause and ask yourself, this stupid idiosyncrasy that you have, is it giving you peace? I'm like, yes. Is it harming others around you? Like, no. No one has complained of the beautiful fragrance. If somebody does, I'll stop. I'm like, then continue. So I don't think if that's weird, but I love incense and like.
No, that's weird enough. I think the t-shirt could be the second one, huh?
Yes.
Well, Feroza, I want to thank you so much for this. I really appreciate your time. I learned a lot from this.
Thank you, Arman. I had such a good time. It was just having a conversation with you, and I look forward to these. So thank you.
Amazing. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Next Move podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to leave a subscribe, leave a comment with a few questions for Feroza, and I'll send them over to her, and she'll get back to you if she has the time. And again, thanks everybody. See you guys in the next one.